Alright, so as you can see, we have, Grand Blue, the website, released a play guide. And essentially it talks about some of the aspects of the battle system, the online lobby, and the characters. And I kind of want to go through some of it just to honestly get my mind right, essentially. Brush up on some things and kind of talk about some of the different aspects of the game that we can expect. The first things first, I guess, is something called the battle interface, which is essentially, honestly, most of the stuff just on the screen, the health bar, BP, etc. This is pretty self-explanatory, but I'd say definitely touching up on chain counters and bravery points is pretty useful, considering the fact that these are going to be new aspects of Rising. So, resource that can be spent to perform raging strikes and brave counters, or depleted when struck by skybound art, super skybound art, or when guard crushed. Each player starts a round with a 3 in stock. Yeah. So we know that. Let's go ahead and go to the basic controls. Let's look at this. So this is pretty interesting, right? They actually have a photo, a little image of the PS5 controller, which is very interesting because it's literally exactly what I'm playing on. Now, I mean, I can play on either pad or a leverless controller, and I've been kind of switching on and off depending on, what I feel like doing, right? However, I was not really necessarily expecting them to give us just an image like this. This is pretty cool to me. It's a good visual aspect of what to press and what abilities you have on the controller. It's pretty cool. Now go to basic actions, all about the fundamentals. These are pretty fundamental. I mean, when you pick up the game, you're gonna learn the basics of it, so I don't necessarily intend to go over everything, just more so things that I feel like I should look at and possibly talk about. So this is something I think I should talk about. So the SBA gauge, right? Build up gauge and use it to perform powerful skills. Now, managing this gauge is going to be pretty important, obviously. Honestly, with any fighting game in relation to having meter and stuff like that, it's obviously really important to manage it wisely. Especially now in regards to this game, it's going to be a little bit more mind games in regards to using meter, using bravery points and stuff like that, because you can definitely get some pretty big damage if you're not wise with how you're using it and how you're spending BP. So let's go ahead and go over this. And yeah, so to begin, press X simultaneously to activate a skill. Ultimate skills are more powerful versions of skills that cost 50% of your SBA gauge to activate. They briefly slow down your foe's movement, enabling new ways to chain attacks or punish openings. Unless chained into during a combo, landing one will partially refill your SBA gauge upon hit or block, with some exceptions. Use the slowdown effect to explore new ways to utilize your skills. Here's the arts. 100% of your gauge. Skybound arts are special attacks that deal even more damage than ultimate skills. They can only be activated when the SBA gauge is full, so use them wisely. It will cover 1 bravery point upon activation and deplete 1 bravery point from your opponent if it deals damage, with some exceptions. Now here's kind of essentially what I was talking about in regards to like managing your meter really carefully, because with the addition to bravery points, it's definitely going to be a little bit more important to kind of essentially think before you act, because when you have, if it sounds like I'm kind of cutting off, it's because I have to cut the mic off because I'm currently sick, so it's kind of difficult to talk to, but I definitely still wanted to talk about this regardless of how I may sound. So like I was saying, if you have 1 or 0 bravery points, you can take either from like 20% damage all the way to like 50% damage. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how people decide to use their meter, their bravery points, etc. And it's going to be interesting to see how people take advantage of that and how much damage they get from it. All the cool clips I'm sure we'll see of people doing crazy amounts of damage because their opponent has very little bravery points. So yeah, universal skills, dish out some punishment. So this is essentially kind of what I was talking about in regards to bravery points. Both players will start with 3 bravery points at the start of each round. This resource can be consumed to perform raging strikes and brave counters, and is also depleted upon getting guard crushed by a raging strike or taking damage by a skybound or super skybound art. Your defense will awaken as your bravery points are depleted, and getting struck by a raging strike when you have none left will leave you temporarily defenseless to follow up attacks, so be careful. So the raging chain costs up to 25% SPA gauge. Brave counter costs 1 bravery point. Alright, now let's go to the online lobby. I'm not going to go over this. This is just some basic aspects of the online lobby. You could definitely go over it yourself if you're super interested. Let's see. Online lobby basic controls. Essentially just the controls once again. Now here are the characters, right? Let's see. I'm definitely obviously mostly interested in Lancelot, so let's go over Lancelot real quick. Obviously, depending on your main, you could definitely look at your main and see the different aspects of your character. But for me, I'm definitely going to look at Lancelot. I'm going to look at technical inputs, because this is definitely what I'll be prioritizing. I know there's going to be some situations in which it doesn't really matter if you use simple or technical, but I definitely want to prioritize being as efficient as possible. So in this case, you have the Wolkenstrom, Blade Impulse, the Southern Cross, Follow-Up, and the Turbulence. So you can do the Follow-Up during the Southern Cross, the Unique Action, the Delta Leap, while mid-air near stage wall. Okay. Yes sir, yes sir. Sounds just about right. Now let's look at the things that require BP, SPA gauge, etc. So the ultimate skill uses 50% of SPA gauge and simultaneously while activating the skill. Sounds just about right. Raging Strike consumes 1 BP. Gotta be careful with your BP usage, especially probably towards the end of the game, or near the end of the match, I should say, between you and your opponent. Raging Strike uses 25% of the SPA gauge, and the Brave counter consumes about 1 BP. You can use this during block or during guard crush. And the Raging Chain is a follow-up after landing the Raging Strike, to get a combo off of it and kind of continue your offense. In regards to the Skybound art, that uses 100% of your SPA gauge, so that's going to be kind of interesting. And your Super Skybound art uses 100% of your SPA gauge at 30% or lower HP. Why is this name super difficult to pronounce? I definitely am not going to try to pronounce that because I'm definitely going to butcher it. But this all sounds pretty sounds just about right for the most part. We're going to have to get used to using SPA gauge and BP in a decent manner, not just kind of throwing out stuff, because obviously the less BP you have, the more damage you're going to take, and it's just going to be kind of a very interesting aspect of offense and defense in Rising.